Hey y'all, CB here, the No BS Welder at NBS Welding. We're rolling in a super service truck. We're headed to a job. Got a little ways to drive and trying to make good use of the time. The last time I was in this situation, I did a video because I wanted to answer the question about what kind of an effect my welding career has had on my eyes and my vision. And if you didn't see that video and you'd be interested in it, you can go back and see that on the channel. It's on my YouTube channel. But I got a lot of comments on that video, and it's interesting how making a video like that leads you to making another video, because I had a lot of requests in the comments of that video to make a video about what kind of an effect my welding career has had on my breathing. And particularly people were commenting about what I thought about welding galvanized and stuff like that. I just want to tell you some facts. I've been a certified welder since 1992. I started working in a welding shop in 1990. So, you know, we're talking about over 3 decades of breathing welding smoke. And I think one of the reasons that I feel like I've even got a lot more welding time than other people, I've never had kids. And I've worked as a welder all my life in a lot of different aspects of welding. But what I mean by saying I've never had kids was just about all the times working as a welder when somebody needed to stay late to get the job done, it was generally me. If work was behind and somebody needed to come in and work the weekend, I took that work. You know, I'm just saying, I worked in shops and on construction crews, and a lot of different aspects I worked within welding. I was working with guys that had kids that were playing football, or kids that were in 4-H projects, or kids that were doing things to where those guys just needed to work their 8 hours, and then they had to go deal with the rest of the important stuff in their life. Well, for me, being somebody that never had kids, I was kind of always the guy that worked 60, 80, 100 hours a week, because working was my life. And when I became a welding contractor for the drilling industry, that was kicked up even more, because basically, as a business owner, a welding contractor for the drilling industry, I got paid by the hour at a rate that I thought was the highest rate that I ever been paid in my life, and I wanted all the hours I could get. So if I could get 100 hours in a week, I'd work 100 hours in a week. I wanted that money. And what I'm saying and telling you this is, honestly, if you were to base the amount of time that I've spent welding on a regular 40-hour work week that a normal person would work, I've probably got 50 or 60 years worth of welding experience. I've probably spent that much more time because I've dedicated so much of my life to doing and welding fabrication work. So I've probably done a lot more welding than most welders my age that have had other important things in their life, you know, like children that they were raising, or parents that they had to help take care of, or, you know, things, you know, that I just never had to deal with. I've always been able to focus on welding and fabrication work. So what effect has that had on my breathing? Well, let's get into the next part of this. For almost the last 10 years, I've kind of been working to improve myself and improve my health. I started out taking supplements. You know, I changed my diet. I quit drinking alcohol. I quit nicotine. I started walking. The walking that I was doing led me to start running. I ran to the point that I got shin splints from running so much. And during the time that I was letting my shin splints heal and still wanting to exercise, I started lifting weights. I fell in love with the muscle that I was building by lifting weights, and didn't want to stop lifting weights, but I got therapy. I found therapy that helped my shin splints, so I got back to running. So now I run and I lift weights. And the reason I'm telling you that is, like, with regards to my running and weight training, I weight train 4 days a week and I run 2 right now. I've been on different schedules with regards to my training, but I'll just tell you, like, today was a run day for me, and I got up and went to the gym, got warmed up. I left the gym, I walked 1 mile and I ran 5 miles. So I traveled 6 miles, 1 mile of walking, 5 miles of running. I ran 5 miles in 45 minutes and 40 seconds. That's about normal time for me, with an average pace of 9 minutes and 5 seconds per mile. Earlier this year, we have a festival called the Strawberry Festival in my town in Buchanan, West Virginia, and they have a big parade on Saturday, and the first thing through the parade, they have a race for runners called the Strawberry Run. And the parade route is exactly 1 mile, and the Strawberry runners that want to compete in the running race run that mile. This year I decided to do that. I don't normally run a mile. I usually run 5 miles, but I didn't know how I was going to do. Well, let me tell you, 278 people entered that race. I came in 13th. I'm 50 years old. I ran a mile in 5 minutes and 50 seconds. There was 12 people that beat me, and the oldest person out of those 12 people that ran faster than me in that mile was 22 years old. The other 11 were teenagers. So what I'm telling you is that even if I had entered the race in the age group of 20 to 29, I would have came in second. And I'm 50. So, look, I'm not trying to impress you with my running speed or any of that. I'm just telling you, if there was any issue with my breathing from welding, I would not be capable of running like that. Now, could I have generated some sort of a long-term issue that's going to lead to cancer or whatever that like that later? I can't tell you that. The big joke I always made was, if you read the paperwork that's inside of a can of welding rods, you'll never burn a rod in your life, because it says everything in the welding rods causes cancer in the state of California. And my big joke was, I'm just never going to weld in California. As long, because if it's known to cause cancer in the state of California, don't weld in California. Just make sure you're never welding in California, you'll be good. That's BS, but I know this stuff's not good for you. Okay, but let's just talk about the galvanized. I have welded a lot of galvanized. I did what needed to be done to make it so that I wasn't breathing it. And in a lot of cases, outdoors with the wind blowing, you just got to get your head out of the smoke and weld it. You got to position yourself in a way that, and that's one thing about galvanized, that white smoke, you can see it, you can smell it. If you're welding galvanized, and you're going to notice it. If you're noticing it going into your respiratory system, stop. Don't keep doing that. You need to do something different. You know, if a guy makes himself sick like that, that's just silly. You know, and maybe other people don't notice it like I do, but I have been welding galvanized before in a situation where I had wind and I thought it was okay, but I noticed I was inhaling it and I stopped, back off, figure out something else. You know, I ain't gonna breathe that stuff. Now, I've heard a lot of people say put a mask on. And in most cases, they're talking about something like a paint respirator filter. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's going to do a damn thing for metal fume fever or anything that's going to really make it safe to suck that stuff in. Putting on a paint respirator or a dust mask or something like that, that ain't the way to go. Now, if you have a PAPR device, what a PAPR device is, you know, I have a nice Miller PAPR where the entire welding hood's sealed around your head, and there's a battery operated fan that pulls air through a filter that you wear on your back and blows that fresh air into your face, basically. Now that could help quite a bit, because instead of the air coming from in front of you where you're welding, it's behind you. Now, will the filter on the PAPR save you from metal fume fever from the galvanized? I wouldn't count on that. I'm just saying that you're getting better air because it's not coming from the area where the welding's taking place. Now, I know the filter on the PAPR is going to eliminate dust, but will it eliminate the fumes from the galvanized? I wouldn't count on that. Like I said, if you're ever welding galvanized and you can literally taste it, then you need to do something different. Another situation that I've been in with welding galvanized was as a welding contractor in the drilling industry. I was in a situation where had to weld galvanized in a well cellar, and these well cellars are like 10 foot deep, like an 8 foot diameter cylinder that you're down inside of. Now, you're not going to get away from that. So the way I went about welding that galvanized, I built devices that I called air vacs. And they were basically super strong duct fans. I had a 4-inch and a 6-inch. I would use whichever one I needed based on what I was doing, how long I was going to be down there, and whatnot. But basically, my 4-inch air vac was mounted onto a 4-inch PVC pipe, so that the fan was way up at the top. The duct fan was way up at the top, and I'd have a hand up there holding that, and he would direct the other end of that pipe right beside where I was burning my welding rod. Basically, what he had was a monster shop vac. So he was wearing flash glasses. He was about 12 to 14 foot away. He wasn't going to get flash burned, but he was driving that 4-inch PVC pipe as I was welding, and the minute those fumes come off of that welding arc, he was vacuuming them up and shooting them out into the sky. That worked great. The other 6-inch air vac that I had, I used a hose for it that was actually for an industrial leaf vacuum that goes on a tractor. They make these vacuums that go on got a big tank on the back of a tractor that sucks up leaves. My 6-inch air vac was a 6-inch duct fan, really powerful. Plug that into the welding machine, get it fired up, and I would throw that hose down in there, and I could actually drive it myself, it being a flexible hose, and I would weld with one hand and suck the fumes up with the other. So, in all those situations, I just did what I could to not breathe that stuff. One of the things I've actually worried about the most is the fiberglass in the grinding wheels. If you've ever been in a welding shop or in an area where there's a bunch of grinding going on and seen the sun rays from the sunlight come in just right, you'll see those fibers in the air. They're just floating. Probably shouldn't be breathing them, and I know I've breathed a lot of them. And the thing about those fibers, if you use a respirator, I believe you will not have to breathe those. If you use a respirator with the filters, I don't think that fiberglass or any of that grit from a grinding wheel, it's just not going to go through that filter. So that's a good idea. And they do make when I use one of those, I don't use the big plastic filters for paint. They make some smaller, flatter filters that'll fit under a lot of welding shields. 3M makes some good quality stuff for that. But all in all, I just say, the stuff you need to worry about, those grinding fibers, the fiberglass, sanding aluminum. Aluminum's very light. It gets in the air. You can breathe a lot of that in. Obviously, the galvanized. I think if you do what you can with common sense to avoid it, you're fine. And I also think that when you get older, you need to start taking better care of yourself. I wish I had gotten into a life of fitness and quit alcohol and nicotine sooner in my life, but I didn't, and I'm just glad I'm out of that stuff now. Because my joke I make now is I feel so much better at age 50 than I did at age 40. I'm looking forward to turning 60. Just to show you what an old man can do. I literally, I feel that much better about life in general, not just physically, but mentally. And all of that has come around all these things I believe in. Taking supplements, the science of diet supplementation, the science of diet, strength training, and cardiovascular exercise. What it does for me physically and mentally, it's amazing. I absolutely, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything. To be my age and live in a body that feels strong and fit and ready, I just love it. But that's my rundown on my breathing and whatnot. And let me know what in the comments. Let me know what your experiences are, and if there's any other of this kind of stuff that you'd be interested in. When I did the video on my eyes, I didn't expect to get as much of a response from that as what I did, but obviously it's prompted me to, want to answer the questions about the breathing and stuff, so I hope I've done that. If there's any other questions, hit us up, and remember, learn how to work with what you got. That way you always have everything you need.